Box, 9 to noon from Trier Rink in St. Paul. It's Paul Allen, Nordo by my side. And the first part of the radio show is co-hosted, per usual, by Kevin Gorg from FanDuel Sports North. Now, we have a show shuffle. Generally, when we come to St. Paul for Vox in the Box, the head coach joins right out of the gate. That was the plan until 10 minutes ago. But something has come up for John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild. He will join at 10:15. John Hynes at 10:15. But we got Gorgomatic here. And really, most importantly, as the Minnesota Wild would go, we have Jonas Brodin skating in front of us right now. What do you make of that, and good morning?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, it's a great sign that he's back out there, able to skate here a little bit on his own. There's a progression when these guys have these serious injuries, and really the first real positive indicator is seeing the guy back on the ice, and he won't be with the team likely here for a stretch, but this is the next step along the way, and you've got one of your best defensemen, you've got two of your most important forwards still to get back, and the plan is hopefully by the time the Wild get to early to mid-April, these guys are all back.
Do you find it to be an if or a when it comes to Kirill, Eki, and Brodzy?
It's for sure a when. It's a great question, but I think Bill Guerin was pretty candid, and that's part of the reason we love Bill Guerin is he's going to tell you exactly the temperature of the team and how things are going. And I think if he would have made a move and if one of these guys would have been deemed to be unavailable until playoff time, he certainly likely would have done more to put this team in a position. But he has the behind-the-scenes information that tells him all three of these guys, at least by that final week of the regular season, are going to be back and rolling. And it'll be huge for this hockey club. If the other night against Colorado is any indication, if this team can defend and get goaltending here down the stretch and punch their ticket to the postseason, you get a healthy Brodin, a healthy Ek, and a healthy Kaprizov. That might trump any move any of your rivals made at the deadline. Those are three pretty impactful players.
Right. How is Coach Hynes handled all this? The injuries, the frustration, and we've had him here via Vox in the Box. You hear him in the press conferences. What's he like in terms of having to manage this? Because those are three significant, massive pieces that he's got to go to work with, and he's been dealing with these sorts of things all year.
I wish I had his temperament, Nordo. I run a little bit like the guy in between us. The high highs and the low lows, and I would...
Emotional roller coaster?
Yeah, John Hynes, to me, one of his biggest assets, he's a tremendous coach when it comes to the inside of, different structure to the game and certainly the X's and O's. But what I love about him is he never fluctuates and gets too up or too down when the team is playing great or when the team's struggling, when the team is healthy or when the team's going through some really serious injury issues. He's a flatliner. He stays even keel. He stays to the task. And I think most teams in the game of hockey feed off that coach. And I think that's why this team, for the most part this year, has been able to be pretty damn consistent because their head coach doesn't get too rattled in any of these situations, and man, I'm jealous. I wish I had that move myself.
Is Matt Boldy good enough to be the guy in the interim?
100%. And I think it's been frustrating for Matt recently, Eric, because pucks haven't been going in. But if you watch his overall game right now, and I loved what he did against Colorado a couple nights ago, getting to the middle, controlling the play, creating turnovers, that goal that Zuccarello scored doesn't happen without Boldy making a tremendous play, tremendous hustle, leaving the offensive zone to create a turnover. And then I loved the chances he was able to garner during the hockey game. And my hope is when you score a goal in the shootout, and I hate the shootout, but when you score a goal like he did and undress the goaltender the way Boldy did in that situation, some of that confidence might come back that, hey, the puck's going to start going in again because he's just too good a player and he's been making the types of plays where he should be scoring. Pucks just haven't gone in.
Wasn't the victory against Colorado? I mean, hockey can be strange. It's the age old. That's hockey. What? The Kings won the Stanley Cup as an 8 seed. That's hockey. You got puck luck. That's hockey thing. The whole thing. And I just think it's easier for teams that are hurt or teams that are struggling to shrink games against good teams with play style. Is that fair?
Especially in the regular season, if you play with desperation, when you're defending, you can equalize the playing field a little bit, where in the playoffs it's no holds bar. Everybody plays with desperation. The rink has been, really shrunk down to a different situation. But in the regular season, you might be onto something. Colorado came in having won 6 games in a row. They scored 31 goals in those 6 games, so they're scoring 5+ goals a game. And the way the Wild defended, and as well as the Wild played, it still took an A+ game from their goaltender to even get to overtime. Gustafsson was awesome in that hockey game, made a couple of key saves in overtime, but I specifically believe that, a lot has been talked about with the way the Wild played in overtime. They knew the numbers. These coaches have access to Blackwood's numbers in shootouts, and I think it was 6-17 in a shootout situation coming into that game. If you get to the shootout, with guys like Zuccarello and Boldy, you're going to have a great opportunity to have an edge against Colorado. So you're not going to go completely all in on the offensive attack, knowing that if you turn the puck over once, Colorado's back on a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, and it's lights out.
Well, here's what I'm getting at. Whether it's the way Hynes constructed it, the first period seemed to be boring by design.
For sure.
I mean, it was just molasses-like.
Shots were 6-5. That's the kind of pace that dictates, here's Colorado. We're not going to go up and down the rink with you guys.
At third period, fantastic. Third period was fantastic.
So good.
So then you get to overtime, and again, we're back to molasses.
Yep.
It's a lot. Teams getting changes in overtime obviously can be difficult, and you know 1,000 times more about this than me, but it seems like you try to time things up to catch teams when they're tired or on bad changes, and they just could not accomplish that. Either team could not accomplish that. So then you get to the shootout, and you lay out the Blackwood numbers. I'm glad you said that because I'm going to bring it up with Hynes later. Boldy's deke left and then game winner from the right side. I mean, it's complete clowning. I mean, he just clowned the goalie. But let's not forget Zucchi's goal. Okay, it was effortless. Okay, I mean, he just sauntered in there casually, looked bottom left, and that's it. And the goalie wasn't even close. No, Zucchi's goal was sweet too.
It was, and he threaded that puck right between the pads, and it looked like Blackwood had put his right pad down on the ice. And Zuccarello had no panic and tucked that puck right in, and that kind of set the tone, right? I mean, going against McKinnon and these guys in a shootout, you need something positive early. So Zuccarello's goal was huge in that regard.
Now with the Avalanche, is it fair to say the Wild caught Colorado at a good time? Well, I mean, with Nelson and Coyle and Nietzsche and all the new players they're implementing, that there will be a transition for this high-end team.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of the schedule. You're catching a team that's putting it together. They're certainly a better team and a deeper team after the deadline. But don't forget, they played in Denver the night before against the Chicago Blackhawks team. Now, they might have been able to sleepwalk through a 3-0 victory, but I've made the trip back from Denver. You have as well with your daughter Coley out there. It's a haul from the rink to the airport. Yeah. They probably didn't get in till 2 or 2:30, didn't get tucked until 3 or 3:30, and certainly, they're fine. But I'm just saying there's an edge there that can't be denied, and it was a physical, intense, in-your-face type of game. The Wild played the way they need to play. Right now, They probably aren't going to be able to score on a consistent basis much more than 3 goals a night. They're going to win with goaltending and defense. And right now, at this stretch of the season, they need to maybe pop out 8 or 9 wins in the last 17, get themselves in the playoffs, start on the road, which I think will be great for this hockey team, and get those 3 players healthy.
Marathon segment to start. Paul Allen, producer Nordo, Max Fuller guiding the great ship Love Covenant at the 651 Carpets Plus studios at FM 100.3 KFAN, and the great Kevin Gorg with FanDuel Sports North or Network?
FanDuel Sports North. FanDuel Sports Network North.
FanDuel Sports Network North.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Right. So this is a marathon segment courtesy of Steve's Appliance and stevesappliances.com.
You mentioned it, trouble scoring goals. So that might be behind Hynes in the game plan, right? I saw this 5 of their last 7, Gorg. Wild have only been able to put 1 goal in the net. And obviously, I mean, on the score sheet, it looks like 2-1, but they get Zuccarello's goal early, and then Avs tie it up. They go to the shootout. But just whether it's Boldy's frustration, it's nice to see Zuccarello coming on. I mean, just getting the puck in the net seems like climbing a mountain right now.
Not a lot of room for error. And in this stretch of the season, you're not going to want to play from behind. So they have to come out and play like they did in the first period the other night, where they are playing a defensive style of hockey, where that third forechecker is consistently back and high in the zone on the attack. And if their D are pinching, they've got support at every turn right now, and they just don't have the room for error. And I think slowly but surely, as this thing progresses, they've earned this position by that an unbelievable 18-4-4 start. They're just trying to punch their ticket right now. Right now is the time to punch the ticket and buy some time, because I can't tell you, being around this hockey team, how important Jonas Brodin is to that blue line. I can't tell you how much the Joel Eriksson-Ek means to the power play, the penalty kill, big face-offs, shutting teams down from the opposition's best. And then, we all know how good Kirill Kaprizov is. I remember sitting here a couple of months ago in this exact same spot talking about the wagering on the MVP of the year,
right.
and Kirill was the leading candidate to be the MVP of the National Hockey League, and we were halfway through the season. It was December. So these pieces that they're missing are basically irreplaceable. You can put other players up there, and they can do the best they can do, but this is not going to be a hockey team that can outscore anybody right now. So they've got to do it by playing a really structured game.
Well, Minnesota was 17 to play, 6th in the conference, 7 points clear of the 9. I think you have Calgary and Vancouver tied.
Calgary, Vancouver, and St. Louis are the teams right now that can ruin things.
Yeah,
and we all cringed last night when the Vancouver-Calgary game went to overtime, because now both teams are getting points. That's the necessary.
The rub.
Yeah, that sucks. And the game, clearly, it does. But the game Saturday.
Bro, you're 7 clear.
That's 3.5 games in baseball with a month to go. I mean, how comfortable do you feel when you're missing 3 of your best, maybe 5 players?
But see, those those overtime losses.
You're 100% right.
I mean, those are key.
But my point is, tonight's game's important. You want to build off that game the other night. Mm-hmm. Saturday's game against St. Louis is absolutely giant.
You're an elite goaltending mind, so help me with this before I hit Hynes with it. Shesterkin. He's 32nd in the NHL in goals against, and it's like, when I'm putting this thing together yesterday, it's I know the names, we know the smell, we know it well, and I just like come into it thinking, all right, well, this is probably going to be top 5. Okay, not top 5. All right, we're going to be top 10 here. Hello, and you just keep scrolling down. Like, hello, okay, well, he must have gotten hurt and only played 15, 17. No, he's played 40 some odd games, and he's not even that far in his career. Wasn't it at one point Igor was top of the heap, or like top 3, top 5?
I'll put it this way to you. If you would have gone, and let's say we were sitting up here in early October, and you would have said, who are one of the Cup favorites to watch that has maybe the best goal in the league? I would have looked at this team, the New York Rangers, who were the second betting favorite in October to win the Stanley Cup, and I would have said, this is the team to watch out for, and this is the reason why. This guy might be, at that time, the best goalie on the planet. Now, a lot of things have happened since then. He recently got paid, which always, to me, at any level, in any sport, is a big deal. But it's not all on Shesterkin. The Rangers have not defended well or consistently well all season long, and I think that's a big piece of the puzzle here.
Con's getting into some game logs.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned goaltending, and I do want to get back to the Rangers, but on our end of things, I'm getting mixed messages in terms of Gus Bus. So Gus, tied for 6th in the league in save percentage. And as you mentioned, fantastic the other night.
So good. Mostly
fantastic. But I'm also seeing he's middle of the pack in goals against. So in terms of protecting Gus, is there anything that you've seen? Because basically what that means is we're giving up a ton of shots. We're giving up a ton of opportunities. Are there second chances? Where, again, Gus, in totality, he's saving most of them. Again, 6th in the league. But we're also giving up, in totality, a lot of shots, which is leading to goals, which is leading to L's.
Yeah, and a big part of that is the penalty kill. And Gus and Flower are a huge fixture in terms of the success or failure of those situations. But, we've documented this throughout the season on our broadcast. Anybody that's watched The Wild has been able to recognize that that's been a part of this.
Yeah.
And clearly, with Gus Bus, the good stretches have been really, really good. And right now, we had the numbers up on our broadcast. It was his last 3 starts before the Colorado game. Now it's fanned out to 4.
We're in another good stretch.
Well, and I think part of that is that I really
game
believe
logs.
There'd be a big step up off 4 Nations, because not only did he make the club, which is a huge honor, he starts game 1 against Canada. He plays well. So Has it been consistent all the way through the season? No. There have been some dips with Gus's play. There's been a couple of stretches where that great play has gone down to a good or maybe not so good. Overall, it's been rock solid, and right now he's probably playing his best hockey of the season, which is very fortunate for the Wild. But I think if you're looking at, moving forward as he becomes a veteran goaltender, you're going to want to see those game logs be a little more consistent.
Show shuffle. We had a show shuffle today. The head coach, John Hynes, joins 1 hour from now. Heinze 1 hour from now at 9:15. Russo Radio goes to 9:45-ish, so we got KG for a couple of segments. Russo Radio for a marathon at 9:15. Walsey in the final hour. And for the next segment, we're gonna run this down near the bottom, but I just want to run something by you guys for the next segment because you're both elite football minds. Here's the question. Yes or a no is all that's required from each of the elite football minds. With Daniel Jones moving on to Indianapolis, J.J. McCarthy under contract, do you two believe the Minnesota Vikings will be in need or in search of a veteran quarterback to become a backup?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Now, so therefore, that takes care of the option portion of the equation, or the need portion of the equation. Second question. Aaron Rodgers, does he play quarterback?
Yes, He does.
That's a yes. That's a yes.
Sure he does.
Okay, so therefore, by definition, if somebody plays the position of quarterback and a team is in need of a quarterback, by definition, somebody who plays quarterback is an option, right?
That is correct.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's next segment. How's Hartsey been since he came back?
Really good. Yeah, he scored he scored a goal 2 games ago, a couple games back. He's been staying out of the penalty box. He's been keeping his cool. He's been doing exactly what he was asked to do, and he's brought his game to another level. He's been more intense, and I think the time away was really good for him. Not only did he get his mind right, but he got his body right. They skated him big time. And, again, it was a turning point for him. I think this was probably rock bottom. If you asked Ryan, he was extremely disappointed. I had a chance to chat with him a couple of different times during that suspension, and he felt awful about the situation, and he took ownership. It was his fault.
Sicky over there, complicated.
Yeah, poor Sicky. He's running around.
Hey, Sicky. Oh, it's complicated right now with that walk.
Elevator's not working.
Yeah, Hynes had to move his time. Sicky. Complicated.
on the ice. We're talking about it.
Holy.
Oh, Sicky's in the grinder, baby.
Hey, with Ryan Hartman, with beloved Hartsey. What was the first game back? It was Seattle, right?
Yep.
Okay. It's okay. So that's his first game back in quite some time. And, he has a right to probably be a little fatigued near the end of the game, despite all the skating and all the conditioning and everything. Man, he impressed me so much in that Seattle game because he was getting killed on faceoffs for like a majority of periods 2 and 3, but he was getting killed. He couldn't win one.
I know.
But then there were 2 at the end, and you had to have them. Hartsey wins both.
Yeah, I like the edge he has. I like the swagger he brings.
Again, complicated.
Sicky hasn't stopped moving. It's just not
something's happening with somebody's car.
It's good to see Ryan back out there playing at a high level.
Yeah, but you remember those moments, right?
I do. I was at that game in Seattle, and the whole team was struggling in the face-off circle, and that, again, is something that drives a lot of our fans bananas, and I think we're missing our best face-off guy at Eck right now, clearly. Right. But Hartsey is a guy that can provide some offense with these two guys out. He's a guy that can step up, can play power play. You can play him in a top 6 role. 3 years ago he scored 30-plus goals. So this is a key guy for this stretch specifically without Eck and Kirill out here.
If we were in a spot-up state, what I would do is I would look at what teams do, whether it's back-to-back or with a day off, after they play at Winnipeg. Because it just seems like we've caught a fair amount of teams this year who just hooked Winnipeg. They got all beaten up, and then they play the Wild, and the Wild generally do pretty well. I wonder if that's a thing, as the kids would say.
I think it's a bigger thing if it's the next day. The fact that the Rangers had a day off to recover is a bigger factor. They played great, by the way. The Rangers played a great game in Winnipeg, lost a 2-1 hockey game. The Jets are a wagon. Tonight's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. And I think for Minnesota, you have a natural desperation when you play your rival in Colorado and you're missing these guys. You don't want to get embarrassed. You don't want to get beat by your rivals. This is one of those weird games where it's an Eastern Conference team. You haven't seen them all year. It's the first time you've played the Rangers. don't rest on your laurels. Come out with that same edge to your game. Make it hard for them because they've got the weapons. I mean, they've got the Breadman and Panarin. They've got Zibanejad. They've got guys that can make plays. Don't go out there and give them those opportunities.
Alice?
Does it feel like were the Rangers at one point kind of shooting for a window? Whether was it Kane, I believe they brought in
They brought in Kane last year. They looked like a team ready to make a run, and last year they got through the first round and then got beat. This year, as I mentioned, they were either first or second betting favorite to win the Cup, and for the most part, it hasn't been the injuries, Nordo. It's been the inconsistent play. They've struggled in their zone. They've turned the puck over. We've talked about Shesterkin having gotten paid, maybe not having his best season. So,
well, and I was thinking about Kreider, as good as he looked in the Four Nations, and then I'm kind of looking through some things. It's like, and I know he's been around for quite a while, so I get it. But
he's a goal scorer too.
But maybe not to the degree that they're needing right now. So it's one of those.
Pushed 40. Now he's got 18, and we're near the end of the year. So there's been some dips in his play for sure. They've got talent. I mean, this team, talent's not the issue with the Rangers. They just haven't put it all together, and they got behind the 8 ball. And in New York, man, the pressure gets ratcheted up early.
Right.
They don't give you any time if you're not off to a good start. So they haven't handled it well.
You know who did put it all together? The Moorhead Spuds.
Oh, yes.
Senor Spotty was on the scene.
Oh, that was fun.
Is that and I'm sorry, I should know this, I'm sorry, but is that the most high school hockey TV work you've ever done this year?
Well, since I started with the Wild, this is my 19th year covering the Wild. Going back to the late 90s, early 2000s, I got to do it, and it was a gift. It was a blessing to have that opportunity, and the hockey delivered. They were great games. We saw 2 championship games that came down to the wire, one in overtime, the Moorhead game literally down to the last couple of seconds, and there were great storylines around it. So the tournament always delivers. There was magic in St. Paul again, and I just love being a part of it.
I don't know if you had a chance because of your duties to hear Zach Halverson calling hockey on KFAN. Holy cow. I mean, my man, he gets it. The flow's good. Just channeling inner play-by-play work, and you've done it too. His flow's good. His crescendo building's good. And I'm not overemphasizing this. Zach Halverson's goal calls are the bomb.
They're really good.
He's really good at calling goals.
How about the end of the AA championship game? The 0 for 8 was worth the wait.
Oh, wow.
For Moorhead, who had lost in 8 title games.
Zach said that?
Yeah, and it was incredibly good.
My man.
I had him on Wooden Sticks, my podcast yesterday, and we talked about the progress the last couple of years he has shown.
Yeah.
So, Zach, I'm so happy for him. He's got such a passion for the game of hockey. He's such a good kid, and he crushed it all weekend long.
So, I think I know the answer to this question, but the booing of the Edina Hornets, it's just a bit, right?
It's the same old bit.
It's the same old bit.
Everybody loves to hate Edina, right?
Okay.
They have a kid named Mason West.
Yeah.
Mark that name down.
Oh, the quarterback.
Yeah, he's 6'6".
Yeah.
He looks like an NHL player in the making.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Anders Lee pull that same thing out. Playing in Edina, playing the role of quarterback, stud, offensive weapon on the hockey team. This kid's a junior. Unbelievable talent. He was the best player I saw. No disrespect to Mason Kraft. He might have been the most impactful player we watched. He is Mr. Hockey, and he is a state champion. But I'm telling you right now, I was blown away by the talent and the size of Mason West.
With Moorhead and East Grand Forks, I believe separated by 80 to 90 miles along the North Dakota-Minnesota border. Is it still as impactful for the northern schools, or does it still really resonate deeply when the northern schools come down to the cities and they beat the metro schools, as one coach said, specifically the teams from the western suburbs?
Well, remember, they're the biggest show in town. When you play in the metro, you're in the shadows of the Vikings, the Wolves, the Twins, and the Wild, and the Gophers. When you play there, you're the show. When you're a Moorhead Spud, that is the pride and joy of that town. And so growing up, we all played tournaments up in Moorhead. They know how to do it. It's a hockey town. The fact they've been to 21 state tournaments, 8 championship games, had never won. You're seeing now the videos of the hotel here in St. Paul the night they won it.
Yeah.
Videos of going back to school with the buses and the police escort into the building, and then the celebration in the gymnasium. This is a huge deal. Same thing in East Grand Forks. These are hockey towns where they love Minnesota sports, or even if it's North Dakota sports across the border, but they're the show in their town. And so to win a state championship, you become a hero in that town forever.
Okay, stupid question number 3 here. Edina. Okay, does Edina, and maybe I should know this, but whatever, does Edina have advantages that other schools don't?
Well, I think the biggest advantage, if you want me to point out the obvious, is look at our captain, Jared Spurgeon. He's got his kids playing in Edina. Where are Zach Parisi's kids playing?
Right.
Edina.
Right.
Where are, Devin Dubnik's kids playing? Eric Stahl's. They're all in the youth program in Edina. Is it the chicken or the egg? I mean, Edina's been good forever. We've seen ups and downs. And in my alma mater, Burnsville now has to combine with Apple Valley. But the one consistent team in the Metro has been Edina. And, there's a reason people love to hate them, because they're always good.
Yeah.
You have to get by them to win at any level. If you play hockey in Minnesota, whether it's squirts, peewees, bantams, junior gold, whatever, Edina is the benchmark. And it probably pains a lot of us to think about this, but they've been good for 5 or 6 decades.
Burnsville, Apple Valley, you said combined?
They're combined right now.
Okay, I mean, those are 2 big schools.
Well,
so why did they have
hockey programs are not.
Really?
Burnsville had 2.
In the state of hockey?
Yeah. Well, and it's all about. So you look at Jefferson and Kennedy. That's been a big talker. Kennedy shut down their hockey program. It's not the amount of people in your town. It's the amount of hockey players in your town. Part of that's the economy. Who's living there? Older, right? Older people. My parents still live in the same house, or at least my mom does now. The same house I grew up in. There are no kids in the neighborhood. Everybody's gotten older. So is there turnover? Edina's been the one community that's been able to shuffle that deck over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And their youth program, there's been no dip. I mean, no dip. They were great in the 70s, and they're still great now, and that's 50 years ago.
How much momentum is there behind the idea? Because I've heard, well, I'll go live in the Hermantown area. I'll take my kid to XYZ location for an opportunity because of a program. Do you see a lot of that?
See some of it. It was certainly a big talker with the goaltender for Stillwater, Cal Conway, who their family purchased a house in Stillwater, but there was a delay in getting that paperwork set up the right way.
Andover.
Left Andover.
Yeah.
And ironically, ended up playing Andover in the first round of the state tournament, which is just crazy. He had those 2 great shutouts, and then obviously that game on Saturday was just nuts. But no, it happens. That's hard to do. Like to pick up your family and move. We all are dads, and it sounds great, like when you just think about hockey, but in life with the rest of the family, it's not that easy to do.
Give us another segment.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Kevin Gorg, FanDuel Sports North Network, and he'll be on the television this evening as the Wild take on the New York Rangers. X marks the spot around 7 o'clock. Game also on FM 100.3 KFAN with Joe O and Tom Reed. This is a Box in the Box from Tria Rink in the capital city of St. Paul. Russo Radio joins about 20 minutes from now. John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, at about 10:15. Some Minnesota Vikings quarterback-related quandary scenarios will be unfurled around the corner, plus much more. Timberwolves dismantled the Denver Nuggets last evening. They've won 6 in a row. We'll get into that during the course of the run today, and we'll do it all 9 to noon at KFAN.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
For Eric Nordquist and Kevin Gorg, do you guys mind if I, to a certain extent, load the chamber with some takes involving Aaron Rodgers and the Minnesota Vikings?
Love it.
Okay, cool. Let's start here. You cool, Nordo?
Oh, absolutely.
Aaron Rodgers. So this will be in truncated fashion, but it'll be a choppy common thread during the 9 to noon show. Why? Show shuffle. Media relations leader, complicated, walking around with a limp.
Sickman doing laps.
Leg may be short. One leg may be shorter than the other. Might need a chiropractor. All right. Aaron Rodgers, the Minnesota Vikings, the waiting game, some stare downs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants, and the Rolling Stones song, "You Can't Always Get What You Want."
Right.
Okay, so that's the theme here. With me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Media reports in common thread fashion are Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers finds Minnesota to be intriguing, which I thought was really, really kind of him. The team wins 14 games and has some quite high-end offensive weapons. Plays indoors, practice facilities, best in the NFL. Stadium ain't bad.
Intriguing.
That's pretty cool that we made the intrigometer, but that's super sweet. More on that later. So the media reports in common thread fashion from the heaviest of the heavy hitters. Shefty melted down on TV last night. He basically didn't mention Minnesota, but he basically was like, Aaron, there are two teams in front of you, and they both have contracts in front of you. Make a decision. Yeah. Pittsburgh or the Giants. So Shefty melted down. So this thing's starting to percolate a little bit. So 9 to noon decided to put some time into it yesterday. And the media reports in common thread fashion, Aaron Rodgers finds Minnesota intriguing, and the Vikings are keeping all options open. Okay, so we for those of us watching or following social media, wouldn't you say that has been the common thread?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, absolutely accurate too.
For sure. Reporting,
from work I did yesterday on this, absolutely accurate with the reporting. Yes, Aaron Rodgers, it's my belief, does find Minnesota to be very, 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 very intriguing. And if a team needs or is in search of a quarterback, well, then, of course, it'll keep all of its options open. Here's also what I learned yesterday, and I didn't know this. The Pittsburgh Steelers, all right, they have a deal in front of Aaron Rodgers. Now, that's been reported. And he's waffling because he wants to be here. And he wants to be here badly. Ugh. Now, Pittsburgh doesn't want Russ. Here's what I learned yesterday. Pittsburgh doesn't want Russ. All right, and here's why. They lost 5 in a row at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And he was changing out of a bunch of Arthur Smith's plays, mostly runs to passes. And the feeling is that they don't trust him. Okay, so I didn't know that. I didn't know Russell Wilson was getting Art Smith's plays, hating them, changing them, and then they weren't working.
Hold on a second.
Okay. So, right. Well, yeah, I mean, what happened? So, it's my belief Pittsburgh really does not want Russell Wilson. Now, I also didn't know this. The Steelers wanted Justin Fields, all right? But he didn't want them. So he bolted to the Jets, okay? Ooh. So
what a mess.
There's a little bit more of a mess there, or there was at the end of the season than really us here in the cornfields probably had a right to know. But I feel good with all the work done on that. That the veracity of all of that is 10 of 10.
So they didn't want Russ because he was changing out of plays?
Correct. Yeah. So therefore,
Aaron Rodgers would never do that.
No.
Well, so does Aaron Rodgers want to finish his career with Pittsburgh or the New York Giants? All right. Now, that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh has a chance to get to the playoffs. We're not going to go through the entire roster. Just traded for DK Metcalf.
They got Pickens and DK. That's pretty nice 1-2 combo.
TJ Watt, Tomlin, whole thing. Okay. Do I believe he wants to play for the New York Giants? That's the fattest of no's. No. Okay. So that's just a fat no. I'm just going to leave that right there. So let's start here. With the unpacking, and you guys answered the question earlier. If the belief is Minnesota is in the market for a veteran backup quarterback, and that is our belief, does said veteran, so therefore that would take care of the potential need. Okay, so now we get to, it comes back to the common thread with the original tweets, the common thread with the tweets. Somebody finds Minnesota to be intriguing, and Minnesota's keeping its options open. So therefore, if you believe the Minnesota Vikings are in the market for a veteran quarterback, okay, and you know Aaron Rodgers plays the position of quarterback, therefore, by definition, he would be an option if he is available, right?
Yes.
By definition. We're not doing any percentages here. We're just going by definition.
He's an option. He's an
on
option
the list. For sure.
And we believe they could be in the market for a veteran backup quarterback. Now, the identity, and Clip, jump in, disagree, agree, whenever you want. The identity of the Minnesota Vikings, for the most part, which includes performance and or fan appeal, is Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, and J.J. McCarthy.
Yes.
You would agree with that?
I do agree with
McCarthy
that.
hasn't played a snap.
They love him.
Like I said, fan appeal.
Yes.
For sure.
So, and the future. So, therefore, that's the defined. Now, Grenard, Van Ginkel, Darisaw, Hitman's coming back. Covenant claps for Hitman, by the way.
Sweet. Love the guy.
Into his 14th
Love
season.
the guy.
Yes, yeah, likewise. So, yeah, that all plays into the identity. But if you had to have a trifecta here, Jefferson, O'Connell, and J.J. McCarthy. Personally speaking, if there are going to be 3 on the banner as you come into U.S. Bank Stadium, those would be the 3, and that's enough.
For sure.
I think that's enough. We don't need to squeeze somebody else's face in there as a major part of the identity. Would you guys agree?
I agree.
Okay. Now, the culture covenant, okay? And this is being dramatically underplayed. Anybody happen to remember that old NFLPA report card that came out a couple of weeks ago? You know,
Yes.
the NFLPA
I saw it.
releases report cards that are filed from the players of each team, and they rank the coach and talk about things they like. In Arizona, they got to pay for food and they hate it. Here, they like the facility and so on. The NFLPA report card gave Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, an A+. The team ranks second league-wide for amenities and comfortability and everything.
Yep.
And first last year. And the team is very prideful of that. I can say it's real because of how much I'm there, and wonderful. And so now, does bringing in an uber polarizing figure potentially alter what's sound, tried, and true, and real, and good?
He doesn't fit.
The answer would be yes.
Yes.
It would be altered.
It would be.
So now, in unpacking the analysis, with that being the overarcher, the details would be, yes, it would be altered, but it's going to be altered with Kelly and Fries and Rodgers and all the new people you brought in.
Yeah, the question or the speculation would then become, it's altered for sure, but is it destroyed or is there a significant setback as part of that?
And I don't think he wants to be a backup. I think he wants to be the guy at this stage in his career. And I don't think he'd be
He ain't coming
somebody
here to sit on the bench.
I think we want to see JJ start. So you go get a guy
Okay.
like Flacco or Gardner Minshew.
And I would, with what you said first, Aaron Rodgers accepting a backup role.
no chance.
It's, somebody may say, oh, it's all good. Oh, absolutely. No, I'll come in there, and I'm cool, man. I'm going to help somebody. I'm going to do this and do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For about 3 days.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I like what you said.
He's going to go to Egypt during week 1.
Okay, next, as the unpacking goes. So most reports indicate that said quarterback finds Minnesota to be, quote, intriguing, end quote. We've all seen that, right?
Yes.
Really? No bleep, Sherlock. Why wouldn't he? Aaron Jones, former teammate, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Christian Darisaw, 2 new offensive linemen, Kevin O'Connell, an aggressive, offensive-minded, really pass-first kind of play caller, right?
Yes.
And
Jeez.
by the way, stick it to the Packers.
Yeah. Oh, and also you play indoors. Okay, old people like to be indoors.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you play the majority of your game indoors. Heinz Field or whatever it's called now, Pittsburgh. Do they play indoors?
No, they do not.
New York Giants play indoors?
No, they do not.
Okay, so we're starting to unpack this intrigue, and we're starting to figure out why Minnesota is intriguing, right?
He likes us.
Okay, cool. Plus, you got the meat grinders of these games that are indoors, like we mentioned. So, yes, it is a 10 of 10 on the intrigue factor, and it's understandable why I think the indoor piece plays a lot here. So now let's stick the landing on this. The question would be, how intriguing do the Minnesota Vikings find Aaron Rodgers to be? Okay, my belief is quite intriguing. Okay, now when you have a building that has a lot of people with opinions, and you have people who find free agents, people who are all around the country, regional scouts setting up the draft and everything. You got coaches, you have people who have been with Aaron Rodgers in different places. I don't believe you're going to have unanimous opinions on something polarizing like this. So therefore, let's say if you execute your life with an abacus in transactional fashion and everything is nameless and faceless, it's just a decimal point or it's just a quantifiable algorithm.
Just got to make numbers work.
So if there were people within Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center who are like, what? We can get him? Holy cow. Oh, wait, I read the Jets might pick up this part of his salary, and then if this date hits, they might get the majority of it. So therefore, you might be able to get him on a 1 or 2 year super cheap deal. Okay, let's put that into the equation. So therefore, if you could get Aaron Rodgers for, say, a year on a very cheap deal, would that alter your thinking as to what you want to do with him and us?
No.
It's tough for me because
it gets tougher.
I'm still JJ McCarthy season. That's where I've been since before the season.
Intrigued by that. I can't wait to watch him play, and I don't think Rodgers is going to be a good fit.
But there's always there's still, and it's not even 10-year-old Nordo. It is Hall of Fame quarterback coming in, cheap deal. And I look at it from the idea that there might be people with abacus. There might be people that look at this as that are in that building and have been in that building. Were in that building in 2009 that are thinking, I remember the bonanza that was Minnesota. I remember all eyes on us.
Yeah.
And I remember a guy that had one of the worst seasons of his career with the Jets and had one of his best seasons in a Hall of Fame career with the Vikings in 2009. And they will play that game out mentally.
Sure they will.
And if they have decision-making power, and I'm sure some of the people in that building have the ability to be part of these conversations, that would be a very difficult decision. And how that all comes together, I think, is really muddy. But I would not be surprised if they are very intrigued, as PA says, and are playing.
No, I didn't say very intrigued.
Well, but are playing out some of these conversations inside.
Right. So I wouldn't be surprised if multiple people had different opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I put it. So I'll land it like this, and I'm glad you mentioned 2009 with Brett Favre. Okay, being next to that thing, Adrian Peterson, Sidney Rice, and Percy Harvin, they looked at Aaron as a quilt, as a comfortable blanket.
Brett, yeah.
Yeah, Brett Favre, thank you. They looked at Brett as like a surrogate uncle or dad, and, oh, by the way, I grew up watching this guy, and I don't want to let him down.
Right.
They cried together in the locker room after the loss to the Saints, all embracing each other. Do we believe the most important young players on this team would look at Aaron Rodgers like that?
I do not.
Yeah,
okay. You know more than me, but I do not.
I'm 10 of 10 no.
I hear
that.
I hear some of his ex-teammates that have had nothing but amazing things to say to him. However, there's the other side of it, of course, that, and everyone has this conversation. Well, let's put politics and these things to the side. How much does everybody actually put that to the side? I'm just thinking from a football perspective personally. Mm-hmm. I know that there are a lot of his ex-teammates that have gotten loud over time, like, I loved Aaron. Aaron was good to me. Aaron was good to my family. But there are also those perceptions and ideas that we have that say differently.
So, in closing, I see these media reports as mostly one-sided, coming from the Aaron Rodgers camp.
Because he wants to be here.
Because, like I said, copyright the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want. And simply because you want to be somewhere doesn't necessarily mean it adds up with where you want to be at this stage of your life. That's the totality of your life, personally and professionally. And I would be a fool to say, over the course of the offseason, entertaining this thought is a complete zero. Okay, why? Because they have a need, and he plays the position.
Yeah.
So by definition, that makes him an option. But it's JJ season.
It is JJ
And as
season.
it goes right now, I would be absolutely blown away if there was an Aaron Rodgers signing with the Minnesota Vikings. That's now, okay? That's as of now. I don't sense it changing, but that's what I believe the answer to be.
Yeah.
I believe the reports are being fed from one side of the equation, the majority of it, and it's not this side in this state. And so I don't see that happening ever or anytime soon. Who the backup quarterback will be, I have no idea. Quite honestly, at this stage, I don't care. Why? It's JJ season.
Can't wait.
It's JJ season.
And JJ's a hockey player, so it all ties back to Vox in the Box here at beautiful Trio Rink.
Thanks for helping.
Love to be here with you guys.
Russo Radio around the corner on KFAN. Radio is in the air at Russo Hockey via the tweet machine. Covers the Minnesota Wild, writes about hockey for The Athletic and theathletic.com. And he's with us now. Now, we just... With
Let me ask you a question. Who responds to texts like this, okay? Just get a random text. Hey, I am John, an HR manager. May I tell you about some opportunities?
Oh, geez. I mean...
Should I just play around?
You got a text from HR? Athletic HR?
That can't be real, right?
No. I mean, who,
yeah.
I mean, they just, I think they send these and just hope that one person out of the million they send it to replies and gets themselves in.
So what do you get out of it? I mean, I'm not sending my credit card.
Eventually, they're going to probably send you some link that, blah, blah, blah.
You know what was cool was Nordo, yours truly, and Kevin Gorg were chatting about the potential or lack thereof of an uber polarizing veteran quarterback named Aaron Rodgers coming to Minnesota and accepting a backup role to start.
I hate it.
And so Russo Radio was over there in the stairwell in the vestibule, didn't even know he was here, and he was listening to the conversation. We go to break on the KFAN Minnesota Vikings radio network, and Russo comes up and immediately, what'd you say?
I just don't like it.
I believe you said it'll be a disaster.
I think disaster.
Something like
disaster.
That. Yeah, like to me, if you have this bright young quarterback that's a huge hockey fan, which is the most important thing.
Yes, there it is.
We got to keep him happy, so he's comes out to Wild games and buys season tickets and does Let's Play Hockey.
Yep.
And you take a guy that has not been a great mentor historically to people like Zach Wilson and Jordan Love, and you're like, let's throw him as an influence on this kid. Like, just sign somebody else.
Yeah, I think about the only thing to add off what I
and I know everything about football. So.
Unfurled last segment.
Yeah,
is all right. Do they have? Is there something wrong with J.J. McCarthy?
Right.
It's not. It's not. Do they not like him? As a 22-year-old, do they expect it to go Patty Mahomes lights out of the gate? My belief would be no. But when it comes to, is there something wrong here? Something wrong that maybe none of us know? I don't believe that to be the case.
Yeah, I'm glad you were talking with Alec yesterday about it, and that was the key. If you're doing something like this, and you don't even have to have it as Aaron Rodgers. If you're doing with somebody else, Russell Wilson out there, I mean, I don't even want to think about that. But if you had,
what if he changes 5 KO plays in a row?
Well, then he's on the.
I'm sorry.
Then Brett Rippon is your starter.
Yeah.
No, but if you make that move, then that might be the only reason why you do it. Do you think that because he's 22, is he still going to mature physically? Probably.
Right.
The arm sure looks damn good. So if everything's healthy, if everything's on point, and again, altering culture versus destroying it, what changes?
Yeah. The NFLPA, second best in the NFL, first last year, coach A+.
Yeah.
Yeah, no metaphorical flies in the proverbial ointment, right?
Well, hey, if there's a building that can handle it, it might be this one, though. If you look at those same report cards, I remember I was looking for the Eagles and the Chiefs. Eagles and Chiefs were like 22nd and 26th in those same rankings.
They don't care about the report card.
They're hoisting Lombardi.
We did for the purpose of the last segment. Let me ask you a question.
How about the Harry the Hitman coming back?
The bomb.
Can't wait.
I'm very excited.
More covenant claps for Harrison Smith and stretching a career to nearly a decade and a half. Yeah, HOF. I got several questions here for you, as does Nordo. With Coach Hynes, who joins 15 minutes from now, what are some keys of making the most with what he has right now?
Well, I think that he is definitely impressed upon them to play defensive hockey. There's a right way to play right now, especially with the guys out of the lineup and the trouble they're having getting out of their own zone and on the attack and clearly scoring goals. And he's got them playing hard and really quality defensive hockey on most nights. The problem is that when you have so little room for error, you can't afford that one bad goal. You can't, you got to make the most of it. And right now they're pretty much scoring a goal a game. So I think that's the key, is that he's tried to, make them realize that you can't get into run and guns tonight with, the Panarins of the world and the Zibanejad's and players like
Kreider.
that. Yeah. And Kreider's had a really tough year, but, they've got to play a certain style of hockey to win games. It's not always, exciting, sexy hockey. But if you play that way, and you eke out some points here and keep your head above water until, as we just saw Brodin on the ice skating, eventually Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov will be back. and wait for the cavalry. This is the way they got to play it right now.
So that is a when. It's not an if.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Bill Guerin says. I mean, it's good news that we see Brodin out there. He's out there with Andy Ness. That doesn't mean that he's going to be back anytime soon. Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov are still a ways away. Like, I think that we're 2 weeks from seeing Kaprizov even step foot on the ice. And that means that
they only have 17 to play.
Yeah, and that means we're not going to see him until maybe a game or two left in the regular season, if that. So they've got to continue to stay healthy. They've got to continue to play a team game and quality defensive hockey. The Brodin injury, though, to get him back, that would be massive. Just because I do think that's one issue, is just getting out of their zone clearly, getting on he helps in so many areas that don't necessarily wind up on the score sheet, but he gets them up and out of their zone, and like very few defensemen in this league can.
You have a trained eye. All right, so the app.
Man, that space heater is hot, huh?
If you want me to block it?
Yeah, maybe you turn it a little right.
That thing feels good on my feet. I had to rush out of the house today, so we didn't wear the right shoes. All right, 3-2. The Avs win. The way I laid it out with KG, first period, molasses-like. I mean, like 11 shots or something. It was just boring, but that's probably how the Wild has to play at this moment to maximize things. Third period. That was phenomenal. Third period was unbelievable. And then you get into overtime, and that was kind of syrupy. That was kind of boring with teams trying to catch teams and bad changes, and they couldn't do it. A lot of circling, a lot of cycling, not a lot of action, right?
Yep.
Okay, then you get to the shootout, and while Boldy, is heralded and, a lot of social media love for that sweet move he put on Blackwood, let's not forget Zuki. Okay, Zuki didn't come in with a head of steam. He walked right up on my man and toyed with him. Just toyed with him, knowing he was going to get it like 8, 9 out of 10 times. So, Blackwood, the Avalanche goalie Blackwood, right? Is he generally bad in shootouts?
You know what? I haven't looked at his numbers.
Because I'm going to ask Hynesy that.
Yeah, I haven't looked at his numbers, but he obviously had trouble with those two. And Zuki is just such a master at that. He's so patient coming with the puck, where a lot of guys get frantic. And historically, actually, a lot of really skilled stars in this league are not good in shootouts. One guy was Marian Gaborik. He was terrible in those situations. If I remember correctly, Heatley wasn't great in those situations. But he's got that ability, and he's got so many tools in his shed in the shootout. That's the cool thing. Like when Mikko Koivu scored 40-something goals in a Wild uniform in the shootout, I think 47 or 48. There was, probably 35 of them, the same move that was very similar with Boldy. Zuccarello's got about 15 different things that he could do there. He's scored 39 goals in the shootout in his career. That's fourth most against 4 active players. Fifth if you include Oshie, who I'm not sure we're going to see play again. And he's just really good in those situations. So, and when you start off with a goal, it just sort of eases things down, and then you get that next big save, and now you got the advantage.
Justin Brazeau, new to the mix, getting his skates underneath him. I saw Husnudinov had some good moments for Boston, so now everyone's pissed that they gave away Husnudinov. But what are your thoughts on the new guy?
Right now I've got to see more of him. Not a great skater, which was advertised coming here. I'm still very perplexed by the trade. I just don't get it. They've taken a team that already had some foot speed issues, and their fourth line was probably their fastest line, and they've now completely slowed that down to molasses. So that concerns me. They added a guy that they said was a net front power play guy. We haven't seen him on the power play yet. They added a guy that is a net front power play guy to their second unit that almost never sees the ice anyway. I don't love it. Their penalty kill, though, now they're using different guys because they got rid of Husnudinov and Nyquist, and it's been better recently. We're starting to see them use more skilled guys on the penalty kill. Boldy and Nyquist have been really good so far on the penalty kill. It's going to take an adjustment for Boldy, on the Elias Pettersson, which Elias is the way he pronounces it. Pettersson. It's weird. They have two Elias Petterssons, but both pronounce their first names differently.
Right.
But Elias, you saw He didn't get in the shooting lane on that one, but he's been really, really good since then. And then when Boldy was in the box the other night, they threw Rossi out there on the penalty kill. So I like that we're seeing new guys. The risk there is, blocking a shot and breaking a bone, which seems to be a bad habit for the Wild this year.
And when you're down Kirill, Eki, and Brodsy skated today, by the way, so that's good news. But when you're down those guys, blocking shots, playing a certain way.
Yeah.
It's always important, but it's more magnified now, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look at Marcus Foligno right now and the way he's playing. I mean, he's already been one of the best defensive forwards in the league this year. But, man, is he throwing his body in front of just absolute dangerous plays lately. He's just such a leader on this hockey team. He's been so good, and so it really magnifies itself right now because they're scoring so seldomly. I mean, since January 9th, they're last in the league in goals. I mean, that's crazy.
Since when?
Since January the 9th. So 2 months. They are last in the NHL in goals per game. 5 of the last 7, they've scored 1 a game, essentially. So, it is tough sledding right now. They don't have a lot of generation. They have to just do so much to score a goal, and it puts a lot of stress on so many other areas. So if you're not perfect in those other areas, you really, it hurts you. And we've seen it. I mean, you look at the game in Vancouver; they outplayed that team dramatically in the second and third periods. I mean, in the third period, Vancouver iced the puck like 8 times, and then they have one bad shift on their own end with their, 2/3 of their fourth line and their third defense pair, and it winds up in the back of their net, and they'll lose the game. The other night, same thing. They have that minute and a half shift with the top line, and Faber and Middleton, they had so many chances, can't score, and then next thing you know, you leave a chance because you give up a tying goal in the third in a game that you were outplaying the Avs. So it's really tough right now. It's put them in a precarious position. You have 3 teams now jockeying for that 8th spot, but really, frankly, coming at them for the 7th spot.
Yeah.
So it's put them in a real tough hole right now.
Time for 2 more.
So who helps out Boldy? Because Boldy, I've been kind of joking about it. I saw he had 8 shots in that 1-0 Boston win. So I was like, if I'm playing Prize Picks, the leader in daily fantasy sports, I'm punching more on Boldy shots every single night. But I'm thinking whether it's Rossi, we see the goal from Zuccarello, because I almost hear 2 stories here. You mentioned worst goals per game in NHL since like January 9th, I think is where it's at. But then I also hear about, trying to slow the game down, can't get up and down with the Avs, so we're going to kind of try to dictate things and make things muddier than they need to be for the adversary. And so who's going to step up and put the pucks in the net? Is it a Rossi? Is it a Zuccarello? Who should I be looking at that says I need more from him as we try to stem the tide and work our way back to health?
Well, I mean, it's got to be a group effort. I mean, obviously Rossi's in a bit of a slump right now. That was, Zucchi hasn't scored a bunch. Boldy has been in a big-time slump. In his last 45 games, he's gone one stretch of 17 games with 15. All right, here we go. In the last 45 games, Boldy has gone one stretch of 17 games with 15 games without a goal, and one stretch of 22 games with 20 games without
Elias
a goal.
or Elias Sports Bureau sitting by us.
I know. So the point is that,
and he still has 20-some goals. So
right, but he got off to an unbelievable start.
4 Nations hangover.
And he has been it's been more than that. I mean, he's just he's not scoring. He's really to me. I feel like with Kaprizov out, he has been the one that needed to step up, and he has not done that. And he's getting the shot attempts. He's getting the shot
in the 4 Nations, catching strays.
He's shooting 6%. He's just we talked at the beginning of the year that he could be a 50-goal, 50-assist guy. That this team, that it's not illegal for them to have 2 superstars. And he has shown that he can't drive his team. So that's a problem. It really is. And I think it's something that he's got to really look at this summer. There's still time this season, but he's the guy you want to see step up right now. And he's trying. There's no doubt he's trying. He's getting 12, 13 shot attempts a game. As you said in Prize Picks, if you're, especially when you're in a slump, if you're going to bet his shots, you're probably doing a smart thing because the only way to get out of it is to shoot and shoot and shoot. So you hope that his unbelievable move there on the shootout the other day is the type of thing that could break the dam. We've seen him be streaky before, but this streak has lasted a long time in the negative way. I mean, it's just been, essentially what I just said there is that in the last 45 games, he's scored in 4 games. I mean, that's not good.
Okay, in closing, now, MI Homes does not sponsor this segment. But I recently learned that MI Homes, that you're tied to them, along with KFAN, KFAN.com. And MI Homes, thank you very much for assisting us with podcasting and streaming and stuff like that. Did I lay that out accurately?
Yeah, I don't know how that all works.
But you're with MI Homes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that the fan worked out, and I am a big believer in MI Homes because I live in an MI home, so that they built my home. I absolutely love them. I've lived in my home since 2019. The building process was unbelievable and all that. So I like, whenever I'm promoting a company, I like that I actually, use that company and love that company and endorse that company. So,
right.
I don't understand how the endorsement works because, I guess they endorse me on the fan, but not the segment. I'm
just thanking MI Homes for being part of the iHeart Covenant.
Yes. From
a podcasting or a podcasting streaming standpoint. And anytime I hear that somebody is tied up to you, makes me really happy.
I appreciate it.
MI Homes, thank you. Michael Russo, thank you. John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, joins 9 to noon next.